Good afternoon, Ms. Bridgewater.
Good afternoon.
The SAP reset date,
Is March the 4th.
thank you. Courtroom 2, are you ready for me to give my announcement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the State Court Expedited Accusation calendar that we are conducting by video. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. You have a right to have an attorney present at these proceedings. We are providing you with the assistance of a public defender this afternoon if you choose to utilize their service. Who do we have first today?
We'll go with position number 11, Ms. Woods.
Good afternoon, Ms. Woods. You have been charged in case 25 CR 0000846E with battery, family violence, criminal trespass and damage to property, willful obstruction of law enforcement officers, and another charge of battery, family violence. Is there a history, Mr. Howard? Good afternoon.
Fifth arrest, 2023. Obstruction, disorderly conduct, NOLO. 2022 FTA. 2019 criminal damage to property.
Good afternoon, Ms. Allen.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. This is an incident from the 17th, so yesterday, February, at about 5:45 in the evening. Police were called to 3071 Middleton Road. There, they met with the victim, Javante Porter, who reported that during basically following an argument about infidelity with the defendant who he shares a child with, she came unannounced to his residence and barged in the door. She went and took his gun and threatened to harm herself with it. They engaged in a struggle over that gun, and she struck him in the face. He was seen to have a black eye. And she bit him on his body multiple times. He had multiple bite marks on his body. When police officers knocked on the door, they spoke to Mr. Porter, the victim. He was panicked. That's how he was described, and was reporting that the defendant needed help. The defendant then walked into the residence and came back out with two AR-style rifles, which she then put on the ground, and police detained her. The scene had visible damage to the location. A mounted flat screen TV had been struck and was damaged. The screen was damaged. The defendant admitted that she damaged the items at the location, reported that she came there trying to rekindle her relationship and get some of her items, and she became upset when the victim didn't want to speak to her. She admitted that she went and got the firearm, and she threatened to kill herself, and that they fought over the firearm. There was some footage of the incident, portions of it, and the defendant was then taken to Grady to be medically cleared. While being taken to Grady, she started to slam her head against the interior of the vehicle, the patrol vehicle. She then, on scene at the hospital, refused to walk, refused to follow commands, dropped her body to the floor, tried to run away from the wheelchair after she'd was put into a wheelchair. She had to be restrained. There are multiple issues here, Your Honor, for the state, as far as safety of this defendant and safety of anyone else around her. We're asking for a $4,000 surety, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons, absolutely no contact with the victim, Mr. Porter, no, to stay away from that location, which is his residence, 3071 Middleton Road. And we'd ask for a social worker visit to determine if it's necessary for a mental health evaluation. We tried to get in touch with Mr. Porter today. He was not responsive to us. We'll continue those efforts. There is a significant amount of communication happening from the jail. And so we'll just continue those efforts. But obviously, intimidation, tampering is an issue here as well. Thank you.
Is this your case, Mr. McLean?
It is, Your Honor. Thank you. Sierra Wood's grandfather does not Zoom, so I told him, after conversing with him, I told him I'd let him know the results of today's hearing. But he did confirm for me something that was about that address. The 3071 Middleton Road is not an address she needs to go back to. She has a stable address. Apparently, a grandmother left an address of 365 Lanier Street, 30318. So the grandfather tells me that's a stable address at which she can live. I did not catch his name, but she had given me the phone number. Your Honor, backing up, she has recently had a baby. She is 24 years old. She went to the 11th grade at Frederick Douglass High School. She works at Rainbow Clothing, the retail store. She has worked in the past at a warehouse called CKS, and before that at Charlie's Philly Cheesesteaks in Woodstock Mall. Nothing further, Your Honor. We asked the court to consider, of course, the lowest bond possible for her, even if that is a signature bond with conditions.
Okay, see if Mr. Javante Porter is on the line and wishes to address the court. Now is your opportunity to do so. For each of the battery family violence charges will be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 3. For the criminal trespass, $1,000 signature bond through pretrial level 3. The obstruction, $1,000 signature bond through pretrial level 3. Makes for a total of a $6,000 signature bond through pretrial level 3. I want her to have a social worker visit to assess for the need for a BHET or an MHET. Stay away from Mr. Porter. Stay away from the Middleton Road address. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Miss Woods, you would have absolutely no contact with Mr. Porter. No contact means absolutely no contact. No physical contact, no phone contact, no internet contact, no email contact, no contact through third persons, no contact whatsoever. If I find that you have been trying, if you do contact him or try to contact him, this bond will be withdrawn. Good luck to you, ma'am.
Next, we'll have position number 5, Ms. Danielson.
I'm sorry, tell me again, please.
Position number 5, Ms. Danielson.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Danielson, you have been charged in case 25 CR 0000840 F with simple battery family violence. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
Fifth arrest, 2024 battery that was dismissed. 2019 obstruction conviction. 2019 battery out of LA. 2018 unlawful acts related to driver's license. 2018 battery conviction.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. McCockey.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. The victim in this case is Aquil Brown, who shares a child with the defendant. I have that the incident location is 3475 Oak Valley Road Northeast in Atlanta. Officers were called to the incident location for the second time for a dispute between the parties. The day before, on February 16th, the victim, Mr. Brown, had called officers stating the defendant had slapped him in the face while he was sitting with their son on the computer. The defendant had left the location by the time the officers arrived. The victim did show officers multiple videos from the incident where the defendant was the aggressor during a verbal argument, as well as a video of her trying to take his phone. On the 17th, the defendant returned to the residence where she tried to take the victim's phone again. The victim moved her with both his hands and she fell onto the wall. After she fell, she stated she would call the police, and the victim left and went to the lobby to wait for the police to arrive. The defendant followed him into the lobby and continued yelling at him. She did tell officers that the victim had punched her in the face, but officers did not see any injuries consistent with her being punched. The defendant was arrested for slapping the victim from that incident on the 16th. Our office has spoken with Mr. Brown, who confirms him and the defendant are not in a relationship. They live together at the incident location and share one child. He states the incident location is his residence and he was just allowing her to stay there to help her out, that she's been staying there for almost a month. He did confirm the events in the warrant, states this is not the first time the defendant has been violent towards him and not the first time that police have been called. He does not want contact with her, wants her to stay away from the residence, and states that she will need a one-time escort to retrieve her belongings. Given the allegations in this case and the defendant's history, which includes numerous battery arrests as well as a battery conviction, the state's recommendation is a $2,500 surety bond, no further contact with the victim in this case, stay away from the incident location, one-time escort to get her belongings, an FVIP or anger awareness, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. And I would just ask the court to sound for Mr. Brown.
Mr. Brown is on the line and wishes to address the court. Now is your opportunity to do so. If you would like to address the court, I'll need you to activate your camera, unmute yourself, and I'll have to swear you in.
This is me. I'm here.
Okay, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you can place your hand down, sir. What would you like to tell? I'm getting some feedback from somewhere. Is that from inside your home?
Oh,
Mr.
it's
Brown?
my TV. My son's watching YouTube. I'm sorry. Let me walk into the other room. Yeah, nah. What the lady just said, I was just gonna state that I would like no contact because this is a constant thing. It's not the first time it happens, and it always happens the same way. And I have too much to lose. I work hard for my things, and I don't want anything putting me at jeopardy. This has been a problem that I just can't fix. So I just would like her to just stay away from me. And this stuff happens around my child too, and it's just not good for either one of us. But I would be happy if it was just a no contact. That's it.
Okay. Thank you for being here this afternoon, Mr. Brown. Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chitaya.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My client is 28 years old. She's a stay-at-home mom, but at the same time, she follows a medical school curriculum through Miami-Dade University's online program. She is a third-year medical student, and she wants to specialize in anesthesiology. According to her PSA, she has no violent convictions on record, nor does she have any failures to appear. Also, another factor I would ask this court to consider is that according to my client, the father of her child is an entertainer and he'll be out of town this weekend. He plans on leaving the state, and her child will be alone at home. So the child needs someone to care for him or her. And moreover, according to my client, she has primary custody of the child. So that's another factor I would ask this court to consider. So with those factors in mind, I would ask the court to consider a possibility of a signature bond, but if that's not possible, then the lowest surety amount that would be appropriate for this case.
All right. So as far as the child goes, they're going to have to go to another court as far as visitation is concerned. At this point in time, I am going to not have her be around him, and I don't think it's good for the child. So they're going to have to go to some other court to deal with child custody and visitations and things of that nature. As far as this case goes, the bond will be a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2, 1-day anger awareness, no further contact with Mr. Brown, stay away from the Hope Valley Road address. She can go back to that address if necessary on one occasion with law enforcement to retrieve any belongings. They are to abide by any previous custody arrangements. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. All right. Good luck to you both. Your client has a question, Mr. Chitaya.
Yes, what is it, Ms. Danielson?
So I'm released, so I can go get my son then, right?
Well, I know you cannot. You're going to have to make sure that if you have custody of your child, as you say you do, you're going to have to go with the law enforcement with some type of custody arrangement or agreement that you already have in regards to that child.
Yes, I have a court order that states it's my time with my son, yes.
Okay, so you can go with law enforcement if you have, if you do have a custody arrangement in place.
Okay,
Okay,
and also I've been living with him and we have a verbal agreement that I was living with him and he was taking care of my apartment. So moving forward, like, what happens after that? Like,
well, as far as this bond goes, you cannot go back to the Hope Valley Road address but on one occasion to retrieve your belongings, okay? So until this is resolved, you cannot go back to that address. Only once with law enforcement to retrieve your belongings. Okay, good luck to you both.
And this per judge.
Who do we have next?
Yeah, position number 3, Ms. Covington.
Good afternoon, Ms. Covington. You have been charged in case 25 CR 0000838Y with battery family violence. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
No.
Ms. McConkey?
Yes, Your Honor, this incident occurred yesterday at 521 Hank Aaron Drive, Southwest in Atlanta. The victim in this case is Miss Stephanie Scott, who is the defendant's roommate. This was a dual arrest. Miss Scott has felony criminal damage to property charge along with her battery charge. I believe she was on the felony first appearance this morning. The parties were having a verbal argument about the residence being clean. That argument became physical. Both parties advised that the other one initiated contact. Ms. Scott did admit to throwing the defendant's belongings from their balcony, which caused over $500 worth of damage to the community pool, which is why she was charged with that felony damage to property. Both parties did have visible injuries to the face. The state's recommendation, given that this is the defendant's first arrest, is a signature bond. No further contact with Ms. Stephanie Scott. I will defer to the court regarding any stayaways, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
Yes, Mr. Chitaya.
No objections, Your Honor. I would just add that the incident location is her college dorm room and that her roommate is expected to leave. The roommate is the other person in this case. They're expected to leave by this Friday.
Okay, do you know whether or not Ms. Scott was ordered not to be in that room?
I'm not sure. I'm not aware.
It will be a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1 day anger awareness, no further contact with Stephanie Scott. She can remain in the Hank Aaron Drive apartment as long as Ms. Scott is not there. If Ms. Scott is there, then she will have to have a one-time escort and gather her belongings and find someplace else to live. But if Ms. Scott was ordered not to be there and is not there, then she can remain in that room. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Covington, your client has a question. I think it's about the room, Mr. Chitaya.
Yes, Ms. Covington.
Saying that she is moving, and I just moved into the residence, how would I go about either trying to get another room assignment so that I do not have to see her and or being able to stay in the unit, being that I just moved there, I'm a new resident to the place and she should be out by Friday?
Oh, you can't go back there as long as she's there. So if she's there, you're gonna have to gather your belongings, I guess, and speak to somebody else as for additional housing if that's available. But if she moves out, then you can go back to that room. Or if she has been ordered out by the court this morning, then you can certainly go back there. Mr. Chitaya, can you find out what the order was for Ms. Scott to make sure that Ms. Covington does not violate any of my orders?
I can find that information. I don't have it with me right now, but I could check to see
Okay.
what the order was for Ms. Scott.
Well, just make sure your client gets it. Okay. All right. Good luck, ma'am.
Next, we'll go to position number 2, Mr. Almanza.
Good afternoon, Mr. Amanza. You've been charged in case 25 CR 0008337J with driving while your license was suspended or revoked, hit and run, and following too closely. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
11. Open battery, simple assault, obstruction, trespass, interference with government property out of Cobb County, 2024 probation, 2023 FTA, 2020 disorderly conduct conviction.
Ms. McConkey?
Yes, Your Honor. I also have a 2023 willful obstruction and driving while license suspended or revoked conviction, which he pled no to. I'm not sure if the pretrial mentioned that one or not. This incident is from November 30th, 2024. The defendant rear-ended a vehicle belonging to Christopher Williams and fled the scene of the accident. The defendant's license was also suspended at the time that this accident occurred. The state's recommendation, given his history, his open case, and the fact that he has a somewhat recent FTA, is $1,000 surety bond, no driving without a valid license, registration, and insurance, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. He does have two arrests from 2023 that involves driving while license suspended or revoked as well.
Yes, Mr. Chitala.
Yes, Your Honor. I would just ask the court to consider the lowest reasonable bond value given this case. My client is 29. He is a lifelong resident of Georgia. He previously worked as a carpenter for about 7 years, and he is a certified carpenter. He's a high school graduate, and according to his PSA, he has no violent convictions.
For the driving on a suspended license, a $500 good bond. For each of the other charges, a $250 good bond makes for a total of $1,000 good bond. No driving without a valid license, no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, sir.
Question, what is a good bond? I'll explain it to you. Okay. I'm sorry, Your Honor, can you go over those numbers one more time?
Yes, 500 for the driving on a suspended license, 250 for each of the other two charges. Total of 1,000. Surety.
Okay, so the driving and the hit and run and the other charge, I guess driving to not stop at the scene of an accident, are those two separate charges?
No, they didn't put those together. That's one charge.
Okay,
So
so
he only has 3 charges on here.
got you. So 250, okay, 250 and 250. All right, got you.
Okay?
Yep. So you're off that. Next, we'll go position number 4, Mr. Cross.
Good afternoon, Mr. Cross. You have been charged in case 25 CR 0000839F with willful obstruction of law enforcement officers and criminal trespass. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
68. 2024 shoplifting conviction. 2024 theft by receiving. 2023 trespass conviction, probation. 2023 obstruction conviction. 2023 probation. 2022 FTA. 2022 trespass conviction. Couple of probations from 2022. 2020 theft by receiving, possession of cocaine conviction. 2019 possession of a firearm by convicted felon conviction. 2019 disorderly conduct conviction, and several parole violations.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McConkey?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident occurred at the Chevron gas station located at 2656 Donnelly Hollowell Parkway, Northwest in Atlanta. Officers met with an employee of the location, Felake Alu, who told them that he had asked the defendant to leave the property, but the defendant refused, stating that he would not leave and he needs a reason to be told to leave. Officers told the defendant to leave multiple times as well. After he refused, they attempted to place him in custody for trespassing. The defendant pulled away from officers and proceeded to flee on foot. They were eventually able to detain him. I also see that just last week, the defendant pled guilty to criminal trespass and possession and use of drug-related objects. That was on the 13th of February, so it hasn't even been a week, and he is back here again. Given his history, the state's recommendation is $1,000 surety bond. There is a concern that he will reoffend, stay away from that incident location, no further contact with the employee there, Fela K. Halu, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
Taya?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay. It'll be a $250 good bond per charge, makes for a total of a $500 good bond. I'd like a social worker visit to assess for BHET. Stay away from the Chevron on Donnelly Parkway. No further contact with any of the employees that work at that Chevron. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Cross.
Next, we'll go with position number 7, Mr. Henderson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Henderson. You have been charged in case 25 CR 0000842J with simple battery, family violence, and theft by taking. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
7, 2020 shoplifting conviction. Should have gone to felony earlier. Possession of cocaine with intent. Possession of a knife or a firearm during the commission and sale of marijuana.
Fallon?
Thank you, Your Honor. When the defendant was picked up for that felony case, he was on first appearance for today. He had active warrants from October 2024. This is an incident from October the 15th of 2024. At about 7:30 p.m., police were called to 1514 Northwest Drive. There they met with the victim, Shamika Barneswell. She shares children with this defendant. She reported that this is her residence. The initial report was taken and then a domestic violence investigator followed up. Mrs. Barneswell reported that the defendant came to the location where she lives to assist with the children, and he began to act disrespectfully. She asked him to leave, and this upset him further. She began moving his things outside, and that's when he took her phone from her, went into her residence, and locked her outside. He then also punched her in the side of her head. The defendant had fled and was no longer on scene when police arrived. The victim identified him for police. We did speak with her today, and I would note that his criminal history includes 2 prior battery arrests for violence against this same victim, one in 2015 and one in 2017 through magistrate court. One was dismissed, it looks like after some compliance hearings and maybe a completion of FVIP in 2016. In 2017, the battery and cruelty in the 3rd degree against the same victim, Mrs. Barneswell, was dismissed when a law officer didn't come to court to testify. So we spoke with Mrs. Barneswell today. She reported that, let's see, she got her phone back after about 4 days, that this is not the first time the defendant has been violent. She reports they've not been in contact since the incident. She also said she doesn't want to press charges and said, I never pressed charges, which is another indicator that this is an ongoing issue. They share 2 children, but they don't live together and they're no longer in a relationship. Your Honor, we'd ask for a $4,000 surety, absolutely no contact with the victim in this case, Mrs. Barneswell, or the children, to stay away from her address. 1514 Northwest Drive, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. Thank you.
Ms. Barneswell is on the line and wishes to address the court. Now is your opportunity. Okay.
Hi. I
Oh,
never.
hi. Hold on, Ms. Barneswell. Good afternoon, ma'am. Can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you can place your hand down. Thank you, ma'am. What would you like to tell the court?
I never knew that a warrant was out for his arrest, and I never pressed charges. She stated that I said that I was punched in the head. That never happened. I just called to get my phone back because it was taken. My kids was not around at the time of this incident. They was already gone. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
So I've been told that this isn't the first time you've had to call the police. Is that right?
Yeah, that like she said in the incidents of 2016 when I first had my first child, we haven't had no disturbance when since I've been living at 1514. But this one,
And this happened allegedly back in October. Have you had contact with him since October?
no, we talked at one time during December. I had to take my kids over there. We talked like adults. There was no arguing. We kind of contacted his mother. And that was it.
All right. Well, given that you haven't had contact, until this is resolved, I'm going to have you to continue not to have contact. Okay. Thank you for
Okay.
being here this afternoon, Ms. Barneswell.
Thank you.
Mr. McLean.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ontavious Henderson is 28. He's from Georgia. Your Honor, he went to a school called SAE, Sound Audio Engineering of Atlanta, to get an associate degree in being an audio engineer. And indeed, he is a phone. He fixes and repairs other computer type things. And that's what he does for a living, education. There would be no need for him to go back to the incident location, 1514. His mother's stable 1079 Constitution would be adequate for him to get his notices. He does have that felony stuff to take care of outside of our purview. But considering this case, I'd ask the court to consider a signature bond or a $1,000 surety bond.
Right. For the simple battery, it'll be $1,000 surety. For the theft, it'll be a $500 surety. Makes for a total of a $1,500 surety. No further contact with Ms. Barneswell. Stay away from the 1514 Northwest address. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Henderson.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome, sir. Who do we have next?
We can go to ACDC.
Okay.
Good
After-
afternoon, Judge Morrow. This is position number 6, Ms. Hall.
Good afternoon, Francois. I hope you're well. Good afternoon, Ms. Hall.
Thank you.
You have been charged in case 25 CR 000841J with terroristic threats and acts. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
Third, 2022 terroristic threats dismissed. 2018 simple battery DV. It just says transferred to the DA.
McConkey?
Yes, Your Honor. The victim in this case is Miss Jeriana Razor, who is currently dating the man the defendant shares a child with. The defendant is accused of threatening to harm the victim by stating that she would beat her ass multiple times, threatening to show up to the school their children go to and beat her in front of everyone in the carpool line, saying she's going to stomp the victim's face into the ground. She even told the victim that she is fine with going to jail and will beat her up when she gets out. Our office has had a chance to speak with Ms. Razor, who confirmed the events in the warrant, states the defendant continues to threaten her through her boyfriend's phone, states the defendant is also making threats to harm her 6-year-old child. She is concerned for her safety and her child's safety because the defendant has threatened to come to their children's school this week and beat her up. She states the children have a program this upcoming Friday, and she is afraid that the defendant will come there to fight her. The victim has filed a TPO at 25 SC 001179. There was a hearing for that at 12:30 today. I'm not sure what the results of that TPO were, but the victim, of course, wants no contact with the defendant and wants her to stop sending her threats through her boyfriend. that 2022 case that Mr. Howard mentioned, the terroristic threats, that was null prost. It was a similar incident to this where the defendant was threatening to harm the woman her child's father was dating at the time. The state's recommendation is a $1,500 surety bond, no further contact with Ms. Jerry Honor Razor or Ms. Razor's child, stay away from the victim's residence, wherever that may be, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. And I would just ask the court to sound for the victim if she's on the Zoom.
If Ms. Razor is with us and wishes to address the court, now is your opportunity to do so. You'd have to come on camera, unmute yourself, and I'd have to swear you in. Ms. McConkey, tell me again, Ms. Razor is she the present girlfriend or the past girlfriend of the young man?
She is the present girlfriend of the young man, to my understanding and knowledge.
Okay. And Miss Harris and the young man, do they share children? Or were they just
Miss Hall?
Miss Hall? Yes, excuse me.
Yes, it is my understanding that Ms. Hall and the young man do share a child.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Chitalia?
Yes, Your Honor. I would ask this court to consider a reasonable surety bond value or also consider the possibility of a signature bond. My client is 27. She works from home for a long-term care insurance company, and she's been doing that for about 2 years now. She's been living in Georgia her entire life. She was born in Grady. She's currently working towards an associate's degree in business administration, and she expects to graduate this October. And she has custody over 3 girls. Their ages are 10, 5, and 3. Also, according to the PSA, there are no convictions nor failures to appear on her record.
And Ms. Mokaki again, does Ms. Razor, she has a child?
Yes, Ms. Razor has a child with the victim's current boyfriend. So the victim's boyfriend and sorry, I just confused myself. Ms. Razor does have a child. I'm not sure that that child is her boyfriend's. So I think she's just dating the defendant's child's father.
Okay, I was only wondering because you said something about going to the child's school to.
Yeah. Yes, so the victim and the defendant, their children go to the same school.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, so it's gonna be a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1, 1-day anger awareness, no further contact with Ms. Razor, stay away from Ms. Razor's residential address, no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. No contact, Ms. Hall, means absolutely no contact. You cannot have obviously any personal contact, no phone contact, no contact through third parties, no internet contact, no social media contact, no email contact, no contact whatsoever. If you do see each other, if you do see her at your children's school, you need to turn around and go the other way because you're the one that'll be in violation of this bond order. And if you are, it'll be revoked and you'll be right back where you are. Okay? Good luck to you, ma'am.
All right, thank you, Judge.
All right, see you next time. Thank you.
All right, have a good one. Thanks.
We'll go position number, on the add-on calendar, position number 1, Mr. Johnson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson. You have been charged in case 25 CR 0000843E with 2 counts of battery family violence. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
11, 2023 suspended license, NOLO. 2019 theft by taking dead docket. 2019 probation, FTA. 2018 entering auto. And a couple of probation violations. That's it.
Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident from yesterday, February the 17th. At about 11 a.m., police were called to 780 Peyton Road Southwest. The 911 call indicates that The victim reported she's being assaulted, that she was punched in the face, and that she was grabbed by the neck. On scene, victim Kara Weiss, K-A-R-A, Weiss is W-E-I-S-S, reported to police that there had been an argument with the defendant due to a cheating allegation. He became upset, and she described that he slammed her to the ground. He held her arm behind her back as he held her on the ground and threatened to break her arm. She was able to get free, and she actually called the police while locked inside of her vehicle. The defendant was still on scene when police arrived. The victim was seen to have bruising on her face and the upper chest area. He reported that the victim was actually the primary aggressor, although she's the individual that had injuries. There were children on scene, but we have not been able to verify their information, Your Honor. We did speak with the victim today. She reports that they're in a relationship and live together. They share 3 children. She confirmed what happened and reported that she is in the process of getting an order for protection. She says this is not the first time the defendant has been violent towards her. She currently has bruising, like the police reports indicate, and she'd like no contact. We're asking that the defendant stay away from that location at 780 Peyton Road, Southwest. We're asking for a $4,000 surety, no contact whatsoever with Mrs. Weiss, to stay away from that location. No contact with the children either, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. And if you would sound for Mrs. Weiss, she may have tried to join us.
Ms. Weiss is on the line and wishes to address the court. Now is your opportunity to do so. Doesn't appear so. Mr. McLean?
Thank you, Your Honor.
I apologize. It does appear that there was a domestic violence TPO hearing, so that may be why she's not with us. I'll go look at what the results are, if there are any.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Okay. Kadeem Johnson is 29. His brother is at a Costco warehouse working, so he could not join us for Zoom. But I was able to speak with family. This shows that he does have community connections, and it also the brother mentioned that he wouldn't have any trouble having a place to live, because I told him that 780 Peyton Road would probably be out as a result of this hearing, and they agree. So he's worked security for 11 years, both with his own company and working for other companies. He went to Thurl High School and is educated through high school. He does have the 3 children. One child, of course, is 17 months. That's about a year and a half. And the twin daughters are 6 months. He also has a 6-year-old child that he watches and supports. He watches during part of the day. So we would ask the court to consider a signature bond. If that's not possible, then as low a surety bond as possible. Thank you.
Okay, for each of the charges, it will be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial. Level 1 makes for a total of a $4,000 signature bond through pretrial. Level 1, 1-day anger awareness, no further contact with Ms. Weiss, stay away from the Peyton Road address. If he needs a one-time escort to retrieve any belongings, he can do that with law enforcement. He's to abide by any pre-existing or existing custody arrangements for visitation of the children or child. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Your client has a question, Mr. McLean.
Is it a procedural question about bond that I can answer by phone later on?
There's 2 things I don't understand right now.
If it's about the facts of the case, we're not going to speak on it. But if it's about how bond works, we can. But let's be brief.
Oh, no, then if it's about the bond now, I understand. I just don't understand something else.
Okay. Yeah, if it's about the facts of the case, we don't handle that at this juncture. Thank you.
Good luck to you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. Next, we'll go at position number 9, Mr. Moore.
Good afternoon, Mr. Moore. You have been charged in case 25 CR 0008445A with battery and disorderly conduct. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
51. You got an open ag battery in Superior Court. It's 24 PI 002407. 2018 ag assault conviction. 2015 simple assault conviction. 2015 criminal damage to property conviction. And some trespass convictions. That's it.
Mr. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. As you just heard from pretrial, this defendant has a serious violent criminal history. He's got just what I looked at today, an open aggravated battery. He's out on a $3,500 cash bond from April of 2024, and 2 prior aggravated assault convictions. This incident specifically happened yesterday on the 17th of February at 1715 Howell Mill Road, now Northwest. This is at Anytime Fitness there at the location. At about 11:25 a.m., police were called. On scene, they spoke to the victim. His name is Andrew Smith. He's joined us on the Zoom. He's 18 years old. They also spoke with multiple witnesses, employees, as well as others there at the location who reported hearing loud arguing and yelling by the defendant, hearing a sound of a slap or a hand of that defendant striking the victim, multiple people having to jump in and separate the defendant from the victim. When they spoke to Andrew Smith, the young man working at the location, again, who's 18, he reported that the defendant had come in and said he had a free voucher for a free workout, but couldn't provide any documentation about that. He then threw a $20 bill at this young man who clearly felt intimidated and was like, okay, go ahead and work out. After his workout, the defendant in front of you came back to the desk and inquired about a membership. He didn't like the information he was getting from the young man there at the desk. And so he started to demand the $20 back that he had thrown at this young man earlier to get access to the gym, basically by intimidation. When he was told he wasn't going to get that $20 back, he got upset and punched this young man in the face. He approached him aggressively. He yelled at him and intimidated him and made him in fear for his personal safety, and then punched him in the face. He had redness, this young man, and bruising on his neck. And again, this was witnessed by multiple people, including someone who said that they yelled, "You don't hit a kid like that. This is a kid you're striking." So, Your Honor, we're asking for a $4,000 surety to stay away from that location and have absolutely no contact with the victim in this case, 18-year-old Andrew Smith. The prior aggravated assaults, the charging documents indicate instances of other assaults on strangers, like striking someone in the head with a metal canister. There is a substantial concern here, Your Honor. He's also, as I said before, out on bond for an aggravated battery. So if you'd sound for Mr. Smith, thank you.
Mr. Smith, if you would like to address the court, now is your opportunity to do so. You, of course, don't have to, but if you would like to, you'd have to unmute yourself, activate your camera, and I'll have to swear you in. Okay, it doesn't appear that Mr. Smith would like to address the court this afternoon. Mr. McLean?
Thank you, Your Honor. Gerald Moore is 50 years old. He spent the last 25 years of that 50 years in Georgia. I was able to reach his mother, his nephew in Washington State, and they're probably observing on Zoom today. He went to Morehouse College. He has a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. He works at a restaurant as a cook. It's a brand new restaurant doing a grand opening this month. Before that, he worked at another steakhouse, and before that, he worked at a place. He was a cook for 25 years. So essentially, although he does have the computer background, his career is in being a cook and a chef. Your Honor, we would ask the court, considering everything, to, of course, one problem was staying away from the incident location. He does the stable mailing address. We ask the court to consider the lowest bond possible in this situation, including a signature.
Okay, for the battery, it'll be a $3,000 good bond. For the disorderly, it'll be a $1,000 good bond. Makes for a total of a $4,000 good bond. No further contact with Mr. Smith. Stay away from Anytime Fitness on Howell Mill Road. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Your client has his hand up, Mr. McLean.
Mr. Moore, we do discuss
I'll tell you, I'll let you know.
procedural questions about how bond procedures proceed and how you make a bond. But we really, at bond hearings, we really don't discuss the facts of the case. So depending on what your question is, should we get together by phone right after court's over with?
No, sir, I heard you say that to the prior candidate, so that's why I raised my hand. You had already stated that just 5 minutes before. So.
Okay.
But the officer told me what the difference between a good bond and a certified was.
All right, good luck to you, sir.
Next, we'll go position number 8, Mr. Jones. Good morning.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jones. You have been charged in case 25 CR 0000844D with criminal trespass and possession and use of drug-related objects. The history, Mr. Howard?
I think I counted about 71. Disorderly conduct out of Lake City, on probation for trespass, terrorist threats. On probation for another trespass. 2024 FTA, 2024 shoplifting NOLO. 2 more FTAs from 2024. 2023 trespass, possession of drug-related objects NOLO. History out of California. 2022 carrying concealed dirk or dagger conviction. He got 2 convictions for that in 2022. One from 2021. Probations, FTAs, and a 2014 false imprisonment conviction. That's it.
So,
Thank you, Your Honor. This defendant just in November pled guilty to 2 different criminal trespass cases, one of which he's on probation for, 24 CR 004220C. In that case, he was ordered to stay away from the CVS at 2907 Main Street in East Point. Around the same time, he also pled guilty to criminal trespass related to the Target on Piedmont Road, and that's 24 CR 007671C. Only one of those is the probation case, the first one. This is from yesterday, 2/17. Police were called to the Quick Trip at Sidney Marcus Boulevard, that's 761 Sidney Marcus. On scene, the security officer there pointed the defendant out, told police he'd been criminally trespassed previously. Police confirmed that he'd been criminally trespassed in September on the 15th. The defendant was present. He was standing with a blanket wrapped around him. He was placed under arrest, and a crack pipe with a burnt end was found in his right pocket. Searching him, incident to arrest. We'd ask for a $2,000 surety, Your Honor, to stay away from that location. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons, and we'd request a social worker visit. Again, that's 761 Sidney Marcus Boulevard. Thank you.
Mr. McLean?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Emmanuel Jones is 31. His education includes, he went to a couple of different high schools. The last one, I believe, Stevenson High School, County, near that Rock Bridge and Water's Edge area, in the middle of DeKalb County. So although he grew up there, he's in Fulton County now, but I have down an address of Governor's Drive, and I didn't have the city, so I looked it up, and that's Forest Park. So that would be his mailing address is what's shown as Governor's Drive with the 4-digit mailing address. He would, I believe, check with relatives at that mailing address to see if he moved any mail. Your Honor, he has worked as a forklift driver in a warehouse moving furniture around. We did not catch the name of the warehouse, but it was for several months that he worked there, and he's currently residentially challenged. We ask the court to consider the lowest bond possible, including signature bond. Thank you. There's nothing more.
May I say something, Your Honor?
We'd rather.
Mr. Jones, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. I would have you speak with Mr. McLean if you have something that you want to speak or tell him later. I think there's something going on with Mr. Jones, and I would definitely want to have a social worker visit to assess for his housing issues and for possible BHET or MHET. I would like for you all to report back to me at the SAP calendar, which is going to be on March 4th, regarding Mr. Jones. At this time, it'll be a $500 good bond per charge, makes for a total of $1,000 good bond. Stay away from that quick trip on Sidney Marcus Boulevard. Social worker visit, no drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Jones.
Next, we'll go with position number 1, Mr. Alexander.
Good afternoon, Mr. Alexander. You have been charged in case 25 CR 0000810H with 1 misdemeanor offense. Is there a history, Mr. Howard?
22. 2019 disorderly conduct. 2012 ag assault. Trespass, fleeing an officer. 2012 FTA.
Paki?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident happened at 1400 Lee Street Southwest, which I believe is the Oakland City MARTA's location. The defendant is accused of exposing himself in full view of the public when he urinated on the escalator. The defendant currently has a $1,000 surety bond. We would also ask that he stay away from that Oakland City MARTA station, that he have a social worker visit, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
What's your time?
Was the recommendation $1,000 surety?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Your Honor, first, I would ask the court to consider if there is not a Riverside issue here. I see that the arrest was made on February 15th, about 3 days ago. But if there was a legitimate reason for bringing him in front of the court today, then I'll move on to my next points. My client is 35. He informs me that he stays at 3030 Continental Colony Parkway, 502. That's where he expects to receive his mail. I don't object to a social worker visit. And furthermore, he's currently on Social Security. My client informs me that he has a left side brain injury. He has a rot in his leg and some other health issues. And he went to school as far as the 10th grade, and he's been a Georgia resident all his life. And for those reasons, I ask the court to consider the possibility of a signature bond, but if that's not possible, then the lowest surety amount.
And this was a reset from yesterday.
Okay. It will be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2. Stay away from the Oakland City MARTA station. A social worker visit to assess for BHET. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Alexander.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next one We have, the next two are position number 10, he waived Mr. Riley.
Okay. And is Yunes also a waiver?
Yes, Your Honor. I spoke to Mr. Eunice in the intake section of the jail through a door. I also spoke to Mr. Riley in a large area called the 7 pod, or it's the visitation section. Your Honor, both need to be on the competency calendar. I discussed Mr. Bartels over the phone today. I discussed Mr. Eunice's history and current situation, and we are definitely a go for asking the court to put him on the competency calendar. Likewise, with Mr. Riley, it would appear that would be the logical request as well, simply due to his lack of fund of knowledge and memory to do most anything to survive on the street.
Okay, so Ms. Bridgewater, when is the next competency calendar that we can get these gentlemen on?
It will be March 6th.
Right, because I don't know what you legal perfume was thinking. Making a juice that smells good.
Okay, someone's gonna need to mute for me. So I take it, Mr. McLean, you're not going to object to a good bond on these matters?
Right, Your Honor. Both these individuals definitely need to be at the competency hearing, and that sounds like the only way to make them be there.
Okay, so let me just take them one at a time. Mr. Lee Riley is charged in case 25 CR 000832C with criminal trespass. Ms. Allen, what is the recommendation?
Your Honor, we're asking for $1,000 surety and a social worker visit. He did have an active warrant for an aggravated assault out of Forsyth County. That's a probation violation. He actually was medically cleared and discharged from Midtown Emory Hospital and refused to leave, kept trying to re-enter the location. Officers spoke to him, offered to take him to a warming shelter. He refused, eventually was arrested. This is one count of criminal trespass, but we agree that if there's an issue.
Stay away from the Emory Midtown unless seeking medical treatment.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. That's 550 Peachtree Street.
Okay. So if it's okay with you, Mr. McLean, it'll be $1,000 good bond, social worker visit, stay away from Emory Midtown unless seeking medical treatment, placed on the competency calendar on 3/6. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Does that suit you, Mr. McLean?
Yes, Your Honor. It was a difficult decision to ask for the competency calendar because we haven't really dealt with him before. He's not a frequent flyer, as we say, but he needs something.
Okay,
And
so we'll assess him there.
thank you.
All right, and the last one is position 2 on the add-on calendar, Mr. Eunice, Joseph Eunice, 25 CR 000847G, charged with criminal trespass and criminal trespass interference with possession or use. Yes, Miss Allen.
Your Honor, this defendant was just released on bond. He's got an open sexual battery, 24 CR 002883G. He has previously been on the competency track in that case specifically, and his December 2024 bond requires that he submit to a mental health evaluation and follow any recommendations. He also has a open criminal trespass and an open criminal damage to property. I'm not sure if Your Honor is aware of this gentleman, but he's got more than 10 criminal trespass convictions since 2022. This is from the 17th, so yesterday at about 7:22 a.m. at the North Highland Apartments at 240 North Highland Avenue. Police were called when the defendant was found on scene. Property manager Mrs. Lacey was present as well as security. They let police know the defendant had been previously criminally trespassed from this location in January and was now back at the location. They found him in the stairwell. He frequently climbs over the fence, enters into the location where he does not live, throws his trash everywhere, and defecates and urinates in the stairwell, which interferes with people's use of these areas. And so we're asking for a $2,000 surety and a social worker visit. It doesn't sound like a mental health evaluation was done in relation to that current open case. And so we'd ask for that. If the competency track calendar is appropriate, it looks like he's already on there for that open case, to stay away from the location. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons. Thank you.
Right, Your Honor, whatever is appropriate there. I believe last summer or sometime last year, he was on the competency calendar for something, well, I say summer, 200 days is a major part of the year, and then got competent and we're going to need to go there again.
Okay. Kasha, do you have something for me?
Yes, this individual did have an evaluation already. He spent a significant amount of time in jail waiting on restoration, but we know the process about restoration, Your Honor. And so he basically did a lot of time without the necessary restoration. So we are back at it where he did receive an eval, and he just was one of the candidates who did not receive the restoration due to the process of the restoration. And so this is where we're at.
Okay. So we'll place them back on the competency calendar so we can continue to work with them. It'll be a $500 good bond per charge, makes for a total of $1,000 good bond. Stay away from North Highland Apartments, competency calendar on March 6th. No drugs, alcohol, weapons while out on bond. Okay, I believe that completes the 2 o'clock calendar. Ms. Bridgewater, whenever you're ready for us.
Yes, Your Honor. Once again, the reset date for the SAP calendar is going to be March the 4th. Position number 1 is reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. Position 2 is going to that SAP calendar with a total $1,000 good bond. Position 3 is reset further notice with a $3,000 SOB through pretrial. Position 4 is going to the SAP calendar with a total $500 good bond. Position 5 is reset further notice with a $3,000 SOB through pretrial per judge. 6 is reset further notice with a $5,000 SOB through pretrial. 7 is going to the SAP calendar with a total $1,500 good bond. 8 is going to the SAP calendar with a total $1,000 good bond. 9 SAP calendar with a total $4,000 good bond. 10 is going to the comp calendar on March the 6th with a $1,000 good bond. 11 is reset further notice with a total $6,000 SOB through pretrial. Now to the add-on calendar. Add-on number 1 is reset further notice with a total $4,000 SOB through pretrial. And position number 2 on the add-on is going to the comp calendar on March the 6th with a total $1,000 good bond. Are there any questions, comments, or otherwise?
Give me number 3 and 5 again. Just the total amount. That's all.
Position number 3 is a $3,000 SOB through pretrial, and 5 is a $3,000 SOB through pretrial per judge.
Thank you.
Any others?
You all have a good rest of the day. Yes, Ms. Allen?
Thank you. Mr. McLean and Judge, I sent a email about someone who was a transfer from the DA's office. Looks like she's been reset multiple times due to MH. I went ahead and filed an accusation, but I wanted to make sure the information was conveyed.
Right. Yeah, I saw that. Thank you for sending that. I've discussed it briefly and we'll look into them.
Is this the one that Mr. Jordan responded to you on, Miss Allen?
Yes, Your Honor. Mosley is the
so-
last name.
Okay, so he's gonna
Right.
be reset to the competency calendar on this Thursday. Appear to give the public defenders a chance to speak with her. Okay,
Thank you.
And
all right.
can you shout out to Miss Allen? Thank you for your help on Mr. Kelly.
Oh, of course. I don't want anybody to fall through the cracks especially if they are in need of services. So I appreciate you guys.
Yep, he made it to Dahlonega.
Very good.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, y'all have a good rest of the day. I'll see y'all next time.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.